Andrew, it's been great chatting with you over the last couple of months, especially from my perspective, working in Fresh Hope Pioneering. It was a real heart to see people have a go, try something new, make a couple of mistakes along the way, but importantly, engage with people that actually want to start following Jesus or actually learning to grow in their faith, engage community. So it's awesome to hear what you're up to. Could you just tell us a little bit about this online space and how you're engaging with people online?
Yeah, definitely. I guess just to preface, like my priorities and my role at my church have changed over the last 12 months. So before COVID, I was employed to be a young adults pastor, and that's still one of the areas that I oversee. But then I guess since COVID, one of my roles that has been added is actually being an online pastor. And what does it mean to pastor people through digital tools, digital environments, stuff like that, which if you would have told me that 3 years ago, I would have been like, that's a weird bonkers idea.
Yeah, come on.
So totally unexpected for me, but it's been awesome to just be able to explore that because at the heart of the gospel is a God and Jesus who is actually wanting to reach people by whatever means possible. Yeah. And so that's just kind of where I find myself in now, is going, how do we reach people with the message of Jesus? But then how do we also journey with them and empower them to live out the life that Jesus has for them in their context? So how do they reach the people around them with the message of Jesus? How do they live out the Christian faith in their own context? Whether we get the privilege of meeting them face to face, and some of the people I've connected with, I've gotten to meet face to face, and that's been really cool. And some people I've chatted through Messenger, WhatsApp, Zoom, Facebook, different tools of communication. But it's no less meaningful in terms of being able to pray, in being able to encourage, in being able to equip them for what God has for them. Yeah.
So if you're an online pastor, does that mean this is like a virtual conversation? Like, are you really here?
I'm a hologram right now.
Okay,
exactly.
Cool.
Yeah. Which, like, even for me, like, I'm the one, I guess, doing it, but I know for some people they might have those kind of like Matrix vibes kind of thing. Like, what is this weird online digital space? But the way that I'm starting to see it and understand the conversation is, when you look at the Apostle Paul, he used the tools of his day to connect, encourage, and reach people with the gospel. And that was through letters and writing letters, and in partnership with local people on the ground. And that's definitely where we're at as well. Our tools are different. We don't write letters anymore. We use WhatsApp groups, we use Facebook groups, we use Zoom, we use FaceTime, we use YouTube, stuff like that, to reach people with the gospel, to help them engage deeper in what God is wanting for their lives. And then going, how can we empower them to, through partnership with them, to see God transform wherever they are as well.
It's awesome. And if you're like me, and you wouldn't necessarily say that being tech savvy is one of the tools in your tool belt, like if you're kind of like a bit of a noob and you probably need to read a large book or watch a video to sort of learn how to do this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Like, how do people engage with online stuff if that isn't what they've done for the last 10, 20, 30, 40 years?
Yeah, definitely. And for me, I guess I'm slightly more tech savvy in terms of, I have a smartphone and I use it, and I'm not one of those people that's like, oh, I don't want to get on the Facebook or anything like that. I don't have a double degree in psychology and marketing. I don't have the flashy new cameras and drones and stuff like that. But I've just picked stuff up as I've gone, and I've surrounded myself with people who can lift me up and teach me. a lot of the stuff I've learned is just through reading research, through reading what other people have tried, through having conversations with people, through watching YouTube videos and learning some of the new ways to do things. And so that's, I guess, some of the tools that I've learned. But in terms of what I do, it hasn't changed, just the tools are different. So at the heart of who I am, I want to reach people with the gospel. I want to encourage them and pastor them and care for them. And that's who I am. I'm a pastor. And so that hasn't changed. It's just the means or the environments or the tools for that have changed. And the possibilities in that way are a lot, I guess, more accessible in terms of being able to connect with people despite their geographical barriers, despite their health barriers, their work barriers. I can still engage with them, pray with them, encourage them, support them, pastorally care for them, and celebrate what God is doing in their life as well.
Praise God. So how have lives been changed by this experiment? Is there anyone you can, share about that?
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of some of the bigger picture stuff, and then I'll maybe zoom into one story. But since we've begun this journey, we've seen 9 first-time decisions to follow Jesus. And we've seen about 90 one-on-one prayer sessions with one of our team and someone that we've been engaging with online. And as I said, we started this Facebook group as a way of connecting people. That's about 68 or 69 people. And recently I had a team meeting where I printed off those names and I shared them with my team. And I said, how many people on this list do you recognize from being a part of our church already? And out of those names, most people could only recognize about 7 to 10 names out of the rest of those, which means that these are brand new people that we've gotten to connect with since we've started this. And so that's a bit more bigger picture, but smaller picture, celebrating what God's doing in someone's life. I've had the privilege of meeting over Zoom weekly with this guy who's a part of our online community. And the reason why he hasn't been able to engage in a traditional method of church is that he is a full-time carer for his mum with dementia. And so for him, leaving his mum is really hard, and being around to look after her and all of the needs that requires. And so just being able to connect with him has been awesome for me, and honestly one of the most rewarding things that I've gotten to do out of this time. We've just been unpacking the Bible together. Our lead pastor Nathan, he wrote a discipleship resource, one-on-one resource called Foundations, which just kind of explores what the Christian faith's all about. And I remember we'd been going through that for a number of weeks, and we got up to the week where it was talking about that we're all part of the one body. And so if you can encourage, if you can teach, if you can prophesy. And at the end of reading that passage, the question was, well, out of that passage, what do you think you can contribute to the body? And his response was that he felt like he couldn't do any of that. And so in that moment, I really felt God's heart for him to know that he actually does have something to contribute. And so I encouraged him and said, mate, I think a lot of the people within our community would really love to hear what you have to say. And so I encourage you, whether it's in our Facebook group, through our services, whatever, what if you just shared what God was up to in your life with people and just responded to what God was doing for them? And the next day I woke up with 3 Facebook notifications, and I checked it, and he'd gone in to our group and he'd responded to a number of people's prayer requests and comments. He'd shared some encouragements about what God had been doing for him. And that's just one story of literally within 24 hours seeing someone see things in a new way and seeing his life transformed and actually knowing that he can contribute something. Just because he's at home, just because he's a full-time carer, that doesn't mean that he's not a valuable member of our community and that he can't have a part to play in what God is doing there either. And so that's really my heart, is to see these people empowered, not just from watching something, but actually going, I can contribute and feel a part of what God is doing at Lifegate Church. I'd even just love to connect with anyone who's going, we don't even know where this could go or whether this is a viable option for our church, but we at least want to poke it a little bit and see what could come out of that. Because even for me, and even for our church, this is not something we had considered before this. But now, our whole church has rallied behind it, our leaders have rallied behind it, and we're going, we really see how God is using that in our context. Now, is it for everyone's context? No. But if there's people that are wanting to explore this and at least have a conversation about this, I'd love to just chat about some of what we're learning, hear what's going on for them on the ground, and go, hey, how could we as a movement push into how God could use this together?
That's good, mate. Well, let's put something in the diary. Let's have a conversation. We'd love to just host people who have a similar heart to you to explore how do we pioneer this online space. How do we actually engage in it well and create community and ultimately see people mature in their faith and become followers of Jesus?
Yeah, definitely.
Exciting space.
Definitely.
Come on.